It is now 6 o'clock. Welcome to the October 3rd, 2023 meeting of the Board of Cascade Locks. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
President Ryan,
Here.
Vice President Clute, here. Commissioner Nats,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson,
Here.
Commissioner Speak, here.
Modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda.
I have a couple. I'm going to move Mark Johnson down to F, which we are creating. And in E, we'll do a presentation by the Gorge Canoe Club.
Okay.
I'm also removing the executive session tonight.
Okay. Public comment. Do you have anybody either signed in to comment or online? No. Okay, no public comment then. Presentation. Gorge Waterfall Run, Jeremy Long.
I have a hard copy if everyone would like to have a copy there. We just put together a little summary of our event for your.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Right. Oh, sorry.
No, I got it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting us here to share a little information about our event and our use at Marine Park. First, I'd like to just introduce myself. My name is Jeremy Long. This is my brother and right arm co-director, Aaron Long. I founded and own a small business called Daybreak Racing. We host trail running events throughout primarily Oregon, but also in Washington and California. Our largest event of our season, which lasts from generally March till October. Our largest event is called Gorge Waterfalls Trail Run. It's been held annually since 2011. It lasted from 2011 to 2017 and was previously staged out at Benson State Park until the gorge fires, and essentially the trails were closed for 4 years, as you all know. In 2021, we were notified by the Forest Service that the trails used for the event course in the past were all now open to the public. So they invited us to apply for our permit if we wanted to resume the event. So we did. And we wanted to elevate the level of the event from its current or from its past setting at Benson to a more accessible venue with more amenities, and obviously Marine Park was the top of that list by far. We reached out and connected with port event staff and worked out to relocate the staging area for our event to Marine Park. So I guess the resumption of the event happened in 2022. This event is easily the largest and most popular trail running event in the Pacific Northwest. In that year, we brought 500 runners. The event sold out on opening day of registration months in advance. And after the 2022 event, we saw the demand. We recognized that we wanted a shorter distance. So in all prior iterations of the event, it had a 100-kilometer race on the main day, Saturday, followed by a 50-kilometer race the second day. So that's 62 miles and 31 miles. We wanted to add a shorter distance. Trail running is growing 10% a year across the US generally, if not in most other countries as well. We added a 30-kilometer race, which is a point-to-point similar to the 50K, which starts at the west end of the gorge area near the Multnomah Falls corridor, and then runs over to the PCT and then finishes at Marine Park. Let's see, so again, that event with adding the 30K, the longer races also sold out on the same day with an increased participant limit of 300 people per day. And then that new 30K sold out within a few weeks as well. So we ended up seeing over 900 registrations and in the ballpark of about 825 people showing up and participating over the course of those 3 days this past April. So it's typically with ultra marathons, the general lead time for opening registration is about 7 months in advance of the event date. So for us, that meant for our projected race or event weekend of mid-April this for 2024, we opened up registration a couple of weeks ago on September 15th, and we already have about 850 people signed up for between the 3 distances, pretty equal over the course of the 3 days. People will generally always sign up for shorter distances later because they've got a little more wiggle room in their training. But the 100K and the 50K, the premier distances are more or less mostly sold out. Let's see, I wanted to make a few key points. The 100K and the 50K for 2024, we've applied for what's called, essentially it's the USA Track and Field National Championship race. They hold an annual, I guess, bidding process, and then you can apply, and if you're awarded, basically your race becomes the Mountain Ultra Trail National Championship race for that specific distance. And for the 100K and the 50K, the top finishers would then presumably be representing the United States at a world championship, which generally is usually held in Europe somewhere later in the summer or early fall. So that's pretty cool, exciting. We haven't found out yet officially whether or not those will be awarded, but it seemed extremely likely over the phone. So something, you know, I can share with Janetta to relate to y'all if you're interested in checking it out.
I might be running 100K, but I'm really excited.
A few unique things. I guess just a specific data for the participants coming in 2024. 837 folks have signed up as of this afternoon. That equates to 42 states from the country, including DC, most provinces of Canada, 5 other countries, 45% female, and those are kind of the primary demographics that I can share. A broad age range is typically seen with ultramarathons, skewing to the older populations. Most folks that we see are in that 30 to 59 age group. That would be about 85% of the folks participating. Folks younger than 29, generally we'll see them in shorter distances until they age out of the speed, and then they go for the distance. So let's see, some things unique to trail running that you may or may not be familiar with. Obviously, we're physically limited to that single track. So when I say 300 people a day for a trail running race, that's huge, at least in the United States. In Europe, it's different. They don't have as many, I guess, outdoor regulations that we do, that we have to get permitted and stuff. So we do a lot of stewardship work in order to help keep the trails open and to, I guess, a quality standard that people are, if they're paying to run a race, that they have come to expect these days with the proliferation of trail racing that's out there. So we do a couple dozen days of trail work throughout the year for all of our events. We do several in partnership with Trail Keepers of Oregon, specifically on this course, generally through January, February, and March, because they do a lot of specific work in the low country, along the Gorge 400 trail and on the east end on the Large Mountain Wakina Loop area. Just a lot of water, a lot of trees falling down and stuff from after the fire. So there's just a lot of work to do to get this race prepped. we have a specific beneficiary for every one of our events. For this event, for Gorge Waterfalls, the beneficiary that we donate some of the proceeds to is also Trail Keepers of Oregon to help just make sure that there are enough volunteers to do the work that needs to be done. Obviously, the public agencies can't do it all on their own, so we're happy to contribute when we can. So the 2024 event is scheduled for April 10, 11, 12. And it would be great to have all of you come and check it out. It's a lot different than road racing. A lot of folks who have, I guess, a preconceived notion of what a road marathon in New York City looks like, and you see pictures of cups and things on the middle of the road and stuff. Trail running is generally the opposite of that. It's built specifically around sustainability. Folks are expected to carry their own hydration, their own pack for calories and food. They can stop at the water stations, but they have to bring their own cup, fill it, drink, put it back in their stuff. So it's an exciting sport, and if anyone's interested in checking it out or seeing how we stage there at Marine Park, I'd love to see you.
How did you guys do last year? You get enough volunteers and everything?
We actually ended up turning away volunteers because we couldn't have, there's not enough physical space to house enough.
It's an interesting event because you guys run through the night. It's one of the rare events that they have run through the night, and
Yeah.
I know the whole trail community, Trail Keepers of Oregon, thank you for the shout out to them. But yeah, it's great to see you guys out there leading those races type stuff,
Absolutely. And I guess another point that I would like to make is standard practice with ultra marathons, both for safety and for sustainability, is to have volunteer sweepers running behind the final runners, picking up any litter if they see any, removing all of our course markings as the event is concluding. So and we have radios for them to be able to stay connected to us throughout the event for safety purposes and extraction, etc.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have any lessons learned or anything this year that you guys will do different next year?
Yeah, well, with our date, we specifically pushed it out a couple of weeks, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that this winter isn't going to be a La Nina like this past year was. With the river in the sky we got for the 3 days we were at Marine Park. I've built into our permit an alternate staging setup so that we're not wrecking the lawn too much at Marine Park when they're saturated with water during the 3-day river in the sky event that happened during the event this year. So the trails held up well, but the park
That's definitely a hard part with the park being so wet, but we also certainly appreciate a shoulder season event to sort of have somebody here out in April, bringing groups of folks. That's definitely something we appreciate about your guys' event. And I'm sorry if I did you go up on the PCT at all, or
we do, yeah, and we use the section obviously from the trailhead that the port owns there, and then that uses the PCT heading east up to the Herman Bridge junction. And
so
then
we had an opportunity to see the new parking lot that we built.
I did, yeah, I pulled in again today just to see what all the new cool stuff.
If that's a spot that you guys can utilize next year, let's talk with Jeanette and see if we can get some tents out of there.
We do host an aid station there for the Saturday and Sunday for the 100K and 50K, and it's light years, yeah. So thank you all for your planning and work on improving that lot. So it's great.
Right now, you said 847 people.
837, I think. Yeah.
And so I guess you said more people plan to sign up, or eventually as you get closer to the race.
Yeah.
What are you ultimately hoping for?
Our permit through the Forest Service and state parks aspect, the part that really controls what's limited on the trails specifically, is 400 people per day.
Okay.
So, which is about as big of a trail race as you see in the US generally, unless it's using more like double track paths and stuff.
Gotcha.
Or if it's like a small 1 mile loop style race or something that doesn't cover vast distances.
So are you are you hoping for 1,200 then, because it's a 3-day race? Is that right?
That's the goal, yeah, and generally, when we hit that, we close the registration and then there's a wait list. Last year we had wait lists of 150 to 200 per race.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So we just have to close it after a certain amount of time because we got a plan.
For sure.
So,
Nice.
um,
And then I guess of those 1,200 or however many people that come, where do they typically stay?
so I didn't specifically reach out to the hotels in town, but I did see no vacancy on all of them. Sorry, the red one across from the Best Western, the Best Western, is where we stayed this past year. They didn't have any rooms. So, and that was for Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. And, again, referring back to your question, Jeremiah, we did extend our plan for how long we're staying through Monday so that we can, make sure that we have enough time to, have the capacity to do the, the deep cleaning if we end up getting a rainy day on any of those to make sure that the facilities are well taken care of. So,
Weather permitting, and being open.
So hotels, Airbnb, there's camping available too. People take advantage of that. Again, a little bit weather dependent on that, but.
Yeah, some are staying across the river as well.
All right, Thunder Island, yeah.
in Stevenson, yeah.
Stevenson, yeah.
Would you find it helpful for more camping space or RV space?
Given the shoulder season timeframe of our event and I guess the weather being typically unpredictable,
Probably
more RV space. As you can imagine with most anything trail, it's an outdoor minded group, a lot of RVs, a lot of van lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I can imagine you're running for 3 days in atmosphere, pouring on you, you want a warm shower
Yeah.
after you're done.
Yeah.
Some rain, some sleet, snow,
Yeah.
and, we saw a lot of it.
I would encourage you guys to work with Janetta. I know you're putting on these huge events and have plenty to do, but to stop and meet some of the businesses in town, reach out and see if you can help get numbers from them to help quantify the economic development. That helps us support it, right?
Definitely.
So that's just a way that you can come back and be like, so listen, the hotel said this, and there were this number of people, and all those things sort of help us be able to quantify that and say,
Great.
that was a great event that they created economic development here at Cascade Lock. So
It's definitely-
be great at that.
Definitely on our list for, enhancing the experience, so and then further justifying our presence and
That's great.
stuff, yeah. Sorry, this will be year number 3, staged in an actual town.
Very cool.
Not in a, day use area off the highway.
Right, that's awesome.
Cool,
We're glad to have you.
thank you. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication.
Yeah, this is an event that requires very, very minimal amount of labor from our maintenance department, is that right?
The only thing that they do is they, section off the wedding faces, that's it.
Oh, wow.
That's right, yeah.
They do everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
When they turn on the water for us. That's very helpful.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Moving to government.
Thanks, everybody, for giving me a chance to come in and chat with all of you and do a recap of our event. This was our 8th running of the Bridge of the Gods here in Cascade Locks. And I just want to start off by saying once again, thank you so much for all of your tremendous support, as well as the tremendous support we get from the port. Jeremiah, Janetta, Todd, all those guys are outstanding to work with. Our company has a dozen races all over California, Oregon, and next year we'll be in Utah. And you guys have one of the best staff as far as the support, just friendliness, and helping us navigate through all the ins and outs of getting setting up an outstanding event. This year's event was back to the strong numbers that we saw back in 2019. Back in 19, we were selling out. This year we sold out 4 months in advance. We have a 1,500 runner cap. We ended up with 1,400 runners, just under 1,400 runners actually on race day, because there's always a level of attrition. People will sign up and then last minute issues and things, they'll cancel. So We set that cap. We were not actually mandated by any jurisdiction, but we want to make sure that each and every participant has an outstanding time here. I would love to sell more. From us, from an economic standpoint, the more we start selling over above that 1,000 runner mark, the more money we make, just because the first 1,000 runners basically covers infrastructure. And then beyond that, we start actually making some decent money. So it'd be great to have 2,000, 3,000 runners. I think you could easily see 2,000 runners and possibly even 2,500 runners. However, we have, it's our core to make sure that every runner has an amazing experience. That means ample parking, porta potties, trail space. But the other thing too is we want to make sure that we are a good partner for the port of Cascade Locks and the community of Cascade Locks. And if we grow this thing too big, then we lose control of our parking, and people start parking in the grocery store and in the different businesses. And so far, we've been able to really contain and control that these past 8 years. 21, 22, we're definitely down as far as numbers, 21 for sure, as we came and rebounded back from COVID. But 2023 was, again, we sold out 4 months in advance, probably could be looking at upwards towards 2,000. If we could figure out a plan to have more parking, or the other thing that we're looking at, so parking in hotels are a limiting factor for this event. And I would like to just go back real quick on the demographics. This event has been, since it's been going on for 8 years, it's really become kind of touted as a great event for what a lot of people call the 50 States Challenge. That's kind of the hot thing right now in marathons and half marathons. They want to run an event in each of the 50 states with the scenery, the waterfalls, the dynamic nature of this event. It's caught the attention of a lot of people that are trying to do one of these runs in each of the 50 states. So with this last year, we had 47 states represented. We had over 100 runners from Texas. We get a lot of runners because it's an August event. We get a lot of participants from southern states that are tired of the sweltering heat and they want a little vacation away from the humidity and the 100+ degree temperatures. And so we had a huge number from Florida, Texas, and even like Alabama and Georgia that came up and ran it this year. So back to kind of our two challenges that we face with this particular event going forward, and why we're kind of limited in what we would like to investigate or try to overcome. Number one is parking. How can we find more parking? And it's got to be something that we can both get participants in, but also get participants out. If we get too much parking, if we really maximize the parking within Marine Park, it turns into kind of a nightmare trying to get those vehicles back out, because we have to leave a corridor for the runners to come underneath the train trestle bridge and then over to through the park and then over to Thunder Island where our finish is. It starts across the river in Washington side. So we've been trying to figure out alternate areas. We rent out the school, we take everything that the school has, try to park as efficiently, and we do hire certified traffic control people that will help with the bridge in the morning. But then we actually use certified flaggers for managing the traffic, just from a liability and a safety standpoint, coming down off of Wanapod, down underneath the train and through that three-way stop intersection there. And it helps, but it still turns into a bit of a bottleneck. So we're working with Jeremiah and Janetta to see what can we do to kind of overcome that. It's been a big thing. The other thing is lodging. As you can imagine, August is already a struggle and a tough time of year. The reason we do it in August is because we're looking to make an attractive time of year for all these other locations and folks from the south that come up, and the gorge is just beautiful that time of year. But we literally, not only is everything in Cascade Locks booked out, I made a mistake once, just to give you kind of a little bit of a heads up. One year I made the mistake of announcing our next year's dates before I had booked our rooms for all my staff. And traditionally, as I was checking out, I would book the very next year. So 365 days in advance, I would book it. I got to the front desk of the Best Western and I said, I'd like to get 8 rooms. And they said, we already sold out. Because we made the mistake of announcing the day before what those dates were going to be for it. So now I wait till we get our rooms secured and then we go into it. But Stevenson, Hood River, everything from Troutdale to the Dalles is booked out the time here. So we would like to, our goal for 2024 is to create the run, but then also create almost more of a weekend festival. What we want to do is we want to get more people to come in and camp, utilizing the property on the Marine Park utilizing more camping opportunities on Thunder Island. If folks can come in and camp, it helps with the parking because usually multiple people are coming in, not just one person with a car. They're coming in with an RV, a van, they're coming in as groups. But we can also get them parked the day before or sometimes 2 days before, but encouraging people to spend multiple days here, especially those that are coming from outside the Portland and Gorge area. Because it's worth coming beyond just the run as far as the different wineries, breweries, hikes, everything that makes up what this place is, and just a phenomenal location. So our focus is going to be making it more of a festival. We're even tinkering with the idea of doing live music on Saturday night. In addition to, we had live music this year on the island on Sunday, but doing 2 days of music. And then we're also talking about doing a 5K run, a twilight 5K run on Saturday night to again help separate or dissipate those riders into 2 different days instead of just 1 day kind of thing, trying to spread the load per se. So anyways, that's kind of in a nutshell what we've had this year. It's kind of what our focus is for this next year and so forth. But you know, as always, we check in with everybody at the port to make sure, I mean, are we good partners? Is the size of the event good? Did everything go well? Was anything broken? Any issues? And that kind of stuff. And that kind of navigates where we set our numbers. Right now, we're currently set at 1,500 runners again. If we do find some different avenues to increase that, we will, but it won't be without those hard conversations with your staff. So.
Awesome. I would recommend, as far as parking, I would look into what cyclocross is on. We have an event in October. They usually park over on the east end of town. There's a lot of business open space over there. A lot of overflow parking that's not occupied right now. So that might be something, potentially have shuttles into town, so it relieves the traffic on the day of the marathon and stuff like that. So we do get some comments in town about how the roads are kind of taking over the morning of. As far as increasing the population in the race, do you find that's enough time for the bridge, 14 minutes?
It is. So we've been working, we try to be very conscious with everybody else's experience and time and commuting time across the bridge like that. So we've got a pretty good system down that truly, it allows the runners to have a magnificent experience running across that bridge. And that is truly the gem of this thing. When they step out on that bridge and they can see right down to the water and 360 degrees, that there's really, I don't know of anything else like it right now in the running world out there. We can have access with the mountains all around and stuff. But we worked it where we have the half marathon starts at 8 and the 10K starts at 8:30. And by doing that, it allows us to get everybody across safely, walkers and runners. But then we can now, instead of doing a long shutdown of 45 minutes, we can do what I call a gap in there that we can get traffic through. So I specifically put in car numbers. We do counts every single year, and I usually radio him. Jeremiah's out there, let him know, you know, what we're seeing on this. He's got his clock going too. And so the 14 minutes has been pretty standard what we've gotten down to. Sometimes we've gone a little bit shorter, down to 13. I think 15 is the longest we've had. I think this was one of the bigger years on that. 8:30 was a beautiful, beautiful day that day. And we had 10 cars delayed for the 8:30 start kind of thing. But, and then the other thing we do too, just to try to keep people happy and a way to say thank you for their patience is we take care of all the tolls. So between when we're shuttling the participants over with the buses, and then also for sure, when those cars have been waiting patiently, they just get waived too, and they get a complimentary toll, which then I take care of and pay for at the end with a check.
We are also collecting tolls for any of the buses that he runs across there. So if he runs a bus across the bridge to drop people off, he's paying, what a bus is $9, $7.50, but he's paying for all those tolls as well.
Yeah. I look at you turn into a festival, like a whole thing. I mean, just living here, we obviously all live here.
Yeah.
But it was kind of wild. There's like so many people, and then race was over, and it was just like, where did everyone go?
Yeah.
Where did that go? So I like that idea, kind of spreading it out.
Yeah, I'd like to try to get most everybody at least staying 2 nights and possibly even 3. And again, it's the same thing with the hotels. Their profitability between a 2-night stay or a 3-night stay is greatly increased compared to a 1-night stay. So the more we can work on that. And again, just capitalizing, I think, on the camping experience that's very unique. We get the opportunity, thanks to all of you, to have participants camp out on Thunder Island and so forth. And that's, I mean, that's a rarity that you get a camp in the middle of the Columbia River. I mean, that's pretty special. So we'd like to continue to try to market that.
Pretty beautiful, and then you look through those streets, so if you ever have a chance to go to the ski days, it's not fair to do that, so.
And I was thinking maybe a possibility would be to, for overflow camping, for people with RVs and vans and whatever, on the east end, like you were talking about for parking. You could charge them to park over there and have a shuttle or whatever.
Make sure we check the city well ahead of time, because there have been some issues recently over, legal use of, the east side industrial area for.
Yeah.
Because apparently it's not zoned for it, but
Yeah.
something, we can work through, possible. But yeah, that was my thought as well, it's not
Special use permit.
parking on the east side and then a shuttle.
Do we coordinate with John for safety and traffic and stuff like that, or is it just?
The fire department?
I'm sorry,
The fire department,
yes,
do you do any work with John?
No, we bring in all of our own
I
medical.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
you guys-
I can start doing that though, and make sure and check in with them.
That's great.
Well, you guys have been touted for many years for running a first class event, and you're going off without a hitch as far as we can tell from what support staff has said, thought everything, and you're well supplied with helpers and that sort of thing, so
I appreciate that.
we appreciate it as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It is a well-oiled machine, very much so. And this year, I stood at the finish line, which I usually don't do, I usually go hand through stuff, and then this year I went down to the finish line and there was a live band. I don't know if anybody made it down there, but I think you start out with such this amazing thing that it's always cool to end at an island, but now they end with an island and they're playing rock music as you ran up. And this will be slightly unprofessional to say in a public meeting, but I stood there for 20 minutes and I heard 10 people say the exact same thing, pouring with sweat. This is badass, right? Over and over that same exact phrase with just smiles on their face. They were so excited. Mountains up the back, the rock band's playing, or the metal waiting for them. Like, it kind of is the epitome of what that event's supposed to feel like. I don't know that it made me run, but
Yeah.
I definitely agree with the concept of festivals. I have some experience through nonprofits working with paddling festivals. And that's going on the other side of the river. But I think there's potential here to do that, as long as you can keep in mind the traffic control in town. That's one of the biggest concerns we have in town as locals getting around. I think an idea where you have people busing from a parking lot that's like off-site might help relieve that a little bit. So I would probably look into that, so.
Sounds good. Definitely.
okay.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it.
When you go to the race association.
You gonna bring your lunch in? Yeah. It was calm down. Awesome. Alright. Okay, we're with Columbia Gorge Racing Association. Just a little history, the first event we had here was in 91.
Can you tell us your name first?
Oh, Kerry Poe and
Matt Berger.
so. But back in 91, we had our first event here, worked with the port director, Bob Montgomery back then. He was all excited about bringing us in, and then after that, for one event we had, it kind of opened up Pandora's box. All of a sudden we had all these other sailors going, how was that event? And we never really advertised trying to bring people here, but the word got out and people kept coming to us saying, hey, we want to have an event there too. And all these different classes of sailboats kept wanting to come here and have events. And so then that's how Columbia Gorge Racing Association started, because there was a need for some organization, a body to organize, actually working with the board, running the races and so forth. So that's how Columbia Gorge Racing started. So the organization started in 96, and then we were working with Tobin White was the port director then. And that was during the time when the Columbia Gorge Scenic Dollars was being administered to the Forest Service. And Tobin was trying to get us set up with the Forest Service because we were fitting what they wanted was to bring economic dollars into the community. So he set up a meeting with us with Jim Ferris with the Forest Service. And the Forest Service, we were down on the list of the Forest Service. Basically, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Forest Service said to Tobin, okay, we're gonna move you guys up, and we're gonna replace all your docks in the marina. And in return, you guys can kind of help CGRA. So that's how the docks came in. And Tobin was great to work with, and ever since then, I don't know, I don't know how many events we have run. I don't know if you can go through this, but we're a nonprofit. We do a lot of focus on, sailing for a lot of youth events. I'll let Matt talk about that. We have people that come, we've ran many world championships, national championships. We get people from all around, and it's kind of the go-to place. It's been listed as one of the top 10 places in the world. So, and the challenge is there's a lot of demand for coming here, but we don't have a lot of space. So we have to be careful with what we do. So, I'll let Matt.
Yeah, Carrie's current president of the board. I came on this year. I've been helping and coaching here for years, but I joined the board this year as kind of the youth sailing representative. I'm the executive director of Oregon Youth Sailing Foundation in Portland, but we're a statewide nonprofit. That's goal is to get more Oregon youth sailing from all walks of life. That's our mission. Out here, there's already a well-established training event schedule and facility that's been built over the years, like Carrie was talking about. It's the premier heavy wind training center in the Pacific Northwest. And then when there's national youth championships, they come from all over the country to train here, specifically coming from Portland. Like our kids sail in the Willamette with light, shifty winds, and then they get to come out here and do like real heavy air sailing. So we get to balance both of those things. Obviously, youth sailing, the slide is up. I grew up in it as well. To be empowered as a kid at that age, to be in the elements with your own boat, machinery, takes confidence and self-reliance, like we're talking about, learning how to fix things. That's how you learn. And there's a ton of sportsmanship. You police yourself on the water. There's umpires, but you really police yourself on the water, and teamwork. And it's also a community atmosphere. Kids come from all over the Northwest, and they come. We have 2 week-long youth clinics in the summer, so they spend a week with those kids that they don't get to see for all summer, and they spend a week here, and their families come and obviously love the scenery in the place because it's just one of the most beautiful places to sail, not just in Oregon, but anywhere, as Carrie's saying, top 10 in the world. And obviously the connection to the outdoors is a big thing for sailing. Coming up on the map, so youth sailing in CGRA, there's always regional and national youth regattas every summer here. And then high performance clinics. So there's 2 weeks of youth clinics. Of all the people that come to CGRA, and I think it's on the slide, half of them are under 18. So it's really part of the focus of CGRA. And then after a break, after COVID, we started the Thursday night community sailing and potlucks with the Gorge Canoe Club and working with Janetta this year. That's kind of what I was tasked with coming on the board. Oregon Youth Sailing Foundation sponsors a lot of community sailing in Portland, also Hood River, and also here. So we were able to team up with the Gorge Canoe Club just to bring in more people and also facilitate with the potlucks and have the office available and fix up the life jacket shed so we can all share that. And I'm talking to Val Stepanchuk at the Canoe Club about more ways we can do that in next summer. So one thing we're talking about is actually doing sailing camps combined with maybe the paddling camps or our own. In August of next year, we're hoping to do. We have to figure out the scheduling and how to source the youth that would come in. But the coaches that come out from Portland are all US sailing certified, insured instructors that are all qualified CPR, first aid, the whole thing. So safety is the top priority at CGRA, I know, because it is, treacherous and windy water. So all qualified coaches that come out. Also, US Sailing gave us a grant this year and also a few years ago to do STEM science activities. So they're all based on sailing. It's the physics of sailing, sail shape, buoyancy, marine debris, all this kind of stuff. So we're hoping to do some of those activities as part of a spectator scene during youth events. So people from the community who want to come and learn about what's going on have something to do and watch. Maybe we can get them on the water if we can figure that out to spectate, on top of adding that element into the camp. So those are two of the things that we're talking about for next year. we know that engaging with the community is definitely a top priority and a necessity for us. And so I'm excited to be out here and run that. It's my job. And I also love being out here and getting out of the city and doing it. And it seems like there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of fun things. And July and August are great time to do it because everybody else wants to be here also. 2023 highlights, Carrie, if you wanna talk to this.
Oh, let's see, I think we're pretty much our regular schedule, nothing too big this next year. Or this is last year, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Last year, yeah, we had our youth clinics, the WIN event, Opties, it's, how long was those?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, just youth events.
Yeah, and then we had our CGOD, which is the Columbia Gorge One Design. That was last weekend of July, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was a pretty good turnout, and we'll have that again this next year, you know, expecting at least or better of a turnout for that. So then there's there's a lot of laser clinics. We had a racing clinic with Anna, who's an Olympic gold medalist, phenomenal sailor. So that was pretty special to have her come out and run a clinic. So those are the big things, and then the return to the
Yeah, Thursday nights.
Yeah.
So we did 6 weeks of the Thursday community nights, mid-July to mid-September. I think we missed 1 or 2 weeks in the middle there when I just wasn't available. We had mostly residents, but I met people during the PCT days. There was a family from Belgium that was here to see their son race and set a record. I don't know if he did, but he was on his way to set the record. They came out with us. People came from Portland, Hood River, looking on our website and just hearing word of mouth, mostly local, but there were people from out of town as well. Like we said, we collaborated with the canoe club on the potlucks.
Subaru?
Life championship, not me. And we're talking about how to continue that next year, especially sharing the space and maybe the cage and reworking the containers a little bit if we're able to create some more storage space over there. And like I mentioned, during those community nights, the people in the red shirts that took people sailing, they're all paid and certified staff. So safety was the priority there.
This is just a little bit about the economic impact. I know we struggle in finding hotel space. A lot of people end up camping. I think there's a pretty good. This was put together from actually a survey. I think
2022, yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually some pretty good stuff to back these numbers up. It wasn't just like, oh, let's make up some numbers. There was some surveys done for this. So.
Yeah, and I know direct spending, it says here, it includes the mortgage that we pay for the port, and the Cascade Motel is booked constantly by our judges and volunteers stay there.
And I think next year's schedule is pretty similar to this year.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much the same as next year. I'd like to do more, maybe start the Thursday nights earlier in the summer, and so have more of those nights for sure. And we were talking about maybe getting those camps and those weekend spectator events as far as the community engagement. But the regatta event schedule, that's on Carrie's and the rest of the board side, but I think that you're planning.
It's pretty similar.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I know I visited with a number of people who were there for the youth clinics and that sort of thing. They're here all week.
Yeah.
And booking hotels and eating in the local restaurants, that sort of thing. So that's great. And I will say that your Thursday night events, I don't know if it's the Gorge Canoe Club impact or not, but the quality of the potlucks has gone way up.
Yeah. I think that was more than canoe.
That can't be bad.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
We really appreciate, connecting with the local nonprofits here. Gorge Community Club started 2 years ago. Just disclosed on the board there for that, but I really enjoyed working with you guys this summer.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
Being a community partner here, and I want to continue that. And just off topic, last summer or 2 summers ago, there was an Israeli coach that was coaching the Paris Olympians out here. And the Red Sills, do you remember, is that like your organization or was that organization?
When would that have been?
I'm
I want
not
to say it
sure.
was last summer. It might have been the windsurfing team for Paris Olympics.
Okay,
I wasn't quite sure if it was with CJRE or
then the IQ foils are planning
not.
on coming
It was
next year.
oil of some sort.
Yeah, they're planning to train here next year for the Olympics as well. Yeah,
So they'll be back.
But,
Yeah.
as far as sports people, thank you for, donating the shed for the life vest station, so they appreciate that, so.
gotta get used.
As a citizen, I gotta say, I love whenever you guys are having your events and I can look out on the river and I see all the sailboats and then you see them all over the thickness. It's like so fun and so neat to me, it's great, and then, just as someone that has also attended those events on Thursday. I think that they're really great, and I love seeing all the like local kids, even my own daughter, like just get out on the water and just like make her more comfortable with it, so thank you all for that.
Yeah, let's do more of it. I have to say on the youth impact side, as far as the sailors that are racing also, being in Portland, seeing kids come out here for a week, they do that, they come back exhausted. The smiles on their faces and way better sailors, like it changes their life immediately. You have that experience here for a week, you go on in life knowing you can handle that with that confidence.
Right.
It really is life changing. There's not a lot of places to practice like that.
One of the things when I first moved to town is going to the post office, and I saw your flyer about community sailing nights on Sundays or whatever, 2018. And, you guys are still continuing that, and you're, COVID kind of put a dent in things,
Yeah.
but, you guys bringing it back, and I think, the picnics are helping out. I think what would help is for people who are not used to sailing, give them, like even on your website, have some instructional videos of what type of boat craft there is, what it involves for the beginner, and what they're into, like what they expect and how many people are on a boat, like the technicalities of it. So a lot of people don't know how it works, and it might be a little bit more intimidating getting on a sailboat that could capsize versus.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I wonder how many people actually go to that page,
Yeah.
but maybe they are, and we should have something there.
I would suggest more maybe media on your website.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely. Yeah, I get out of work to come here on Thursday, so I would rather be here than in the city. I enjoy it. Really.
We're lucky to have Matt.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been involved with, of course, since 2000 or so, I mean, ever since we've been here in 2004.
Really?
See you.
Yeah.
My bad. Yeah, so, yeah, we've only been involved with them a couple of years, but no, some of the national events you've had are amazing, the Moth, World Championships.
You're a founding member of the board, right? Yeah.
And did you do national collegiate championships?
Couple times, yeah.
We did the high school championships here this May, also the Pacific Northwest Championships for all the high schools, basically Washington, Oregon, but.
Remember the old Gorge games?
Pardon?
Do you remember the Gorge games that they had? That was, we ran the sailing for that, and I like to brag about that, because NBC, it was like probably the first sailing event that was actually on
talking about this.
NBC, not, some cable channel, but, actually, and they had helicopters, they had cameras in the boat, and they,
Oh, yeah, there was some
They're-
great video footage.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's been pretty
You
big
find the
drop.
sailing better east of Bonneville Dam than west of it, right? Jeremy, or
Used to say that again?
you find the sailing better east of Bonneville Dam versus west?
It's better here.
Yeah.
This is the best spot.
It just gives a little more elevation with the wind and everything.
It's just. When we ran the first event, we actually spent a lot of time driving up and down the gorge, trying to figure out where. What happened was I won the Pacific Coast Championships in one of the Olympic classes in California. And the tradition back then was if you won it, you're supposed to host it. And so usually Californians won it, so it's usually somewhere in California, but we won it. Well, we knew we wanted to have it in the gorge, but we didn't know really where. And we've sailed the Hood River quite a bit. The Hood River is really too windy. It's not really the best for sailboats. So we looked east of Hood River. We looked everywhere, and we kept coming back to here. And that's how the first event came here. It's just because the river is wider. It's not too windy. It has more consistent wind than other places. You have even more consistent wind than you do in Hood River here. But Hood River is windier, but that's not necessarily good for us.
Well, thank you for choosing us.
So, thanks a lot, it certainly helps, you've been through a lot of iterations of the port, and I know we've watched you guys evolve as an entity as well, and so.
Yeah.
The more we can come together and keep this partnership going, and put in the right direction, the better it is, so we appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting up.
Good to meet everybody else.
I don't know about trying to get me a beer for a mask.
Next we had up was Jason from PCT Days, unfortunately he had something pop up, he wasn't able to make it, he didn't send his email, so I'm gonna read it out real quick. Hello Commission, I'm reaching out to thank you and the Port of Cascade Locks team for the time and energy that went into our sponsoring PCT Days, which is one of the best years yet. I've received a lot of positive feedback from volunteers, sponsors, and attendees, so I consider that a job well done to all of us who made it a great festival. Attendance was a mirror image of last year. We estimate that 4,200 people attended PCT Days throughout the weekend. The smoke on Saturday certainly reduced the number, which could have resulted in over 5,000 attendees. Another stellar effort by Granite Gear and Hoka, is that right? Hoka, am I saying that right? Shoes, Hoka, resulted in picking up 200 pounds of garbage in Cascade Locks with the groundskeeper project. The raffles raised $7,100, which was donated to ADLHA West, PCPA, and TKO. The Columbia Gorge Food Bank collected $3,668 and 602 pounds of food to serve people in need in the region. As always, businesses in Cascade Locks were slammed. Were slammed during what is the best weekend of the year for them. During the past 16 years, PCT Days and the supporters have created a positive impact on Cascade Locks and the outdoor community, and it will continue to be a great tradition going forward. We hope to get Jason on a agenda in the future. You guys have a question?
Yeah, well, it's been 16 years. Time flies. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that was a great event. Yeah, we were down there every day for alcohol monitors, and that was nice weather for it this year.
Besides this one.
That's
Could have done without that.
all right. So
Anybody on Zoom? I was thinking. So my name is Josh Baker. I'm on the board of Gorge Canoe Club. It's got a few things. So this is our first, our second full year of operations, kind of our 2-year anniversary, just 10 days ago or so. And a lot has changed in the last year. Just a lot of little things. Perhaps the most one of the biggest things was, our first clubhouse, thanks to the Port of Cascade Locks. And that's opened up a lot of opportunities for storage, for fitness equipment, which we're really gonna see pay off, I think, in the winter. We got in there in the spring, and now that, the weather's gonna start changing, we'll still be paddling. There are probably people, Val is probably out paddling right now. It is a paddle night.
Yes.
No doubt. Our membership has sort of steadily grown. We've got around, I think about 40 members right now. And, that just keeps growing. And notice, if you can see the slide, that first slide is up there. Canoe community culture. We really want to be invested in the community. We are here all year. Very invested in what's going on. We want to have a good relationship with the city and the port and our neighbors and so forth, with CGRA and all that. I regret that I did not go out on one of the community nights where there was the sailing opportunity, to be honest, next year.
It's gonna be nice to get this third day.
Come on out. We hosted our first race this year, our first serious race, which I'm not sure exactly how many, around 50 people, I think, took part, 50 or 60 people took part in small boats, outrigger canoes and surf skis, and maybe a stand-up paddleboard too, I'm not sure. And that was a big learning experience. People said we set a high standard from other clubs and people who put on other races, professionals, Olympians. Yeah, but there are a lot of people who did just they came to the community nights sort of peripherally involved, people we could see on a consistent basis who loved, I love the collaboration with CGRA to have those great community nights. It was just like, this is a great place to be on a Thursday evening, our gorgeous weather in the summer, people are getting some exercise in the fresh air, meeting friends they don't see all the time, learning something new about sailing, about outrigger paddling, all of that, just think it's a fantastic thing.
Makes us very happy that we switched to Tuesday nights. For our meeting.
There you go. So it's something we've done all along. I think before we were even an official club, we've been involved in doing like highway cleanups and other things around town. Did a big one last spring, I guess.
Honor Day.
And, right.
Take care.
And, I don't remember how many bags of trash we got, but it was a lot. There was a lot. It's sometimes disturbing how much trash is along the side of the highway. But, we're happy to be a part of picking that up. And we've got another one coming right up, I think next week.
Sunday.
There we go. And another big thing we did, second year in a row, we sort of consolidated, summer camps, thanks to the port. We've got kids out there teaching them, what paddling is about, what it can be like, keeping them, learning about safety, learning about outrigger canoes. It's a different animal. But getting them in the 6-man outrigger, as well as on one-man canoes. And I know they had a lot of fun. You can perhaps see an image up there. The kids were pretty stoked. Be with, our coaches, Val and Jimmy and so forth, just having a blast and learning and hopefully we got some future paddlers, as adults. And we did, there's a lot of races over the course of the spring and summer. The June, July, August are kind of the heart of it, and we did participate. Our members participated in various races and had a good time. We learned a lot. I learned a lot myself. Got humbled by the Columbia regularly. It'll do that. We've got some stuff coming up, like Carrie said, the 8th, we've got another highway cleanup, and we are by state. We also have some members from the Stevenson, Carson area. We paddle over there sometimes. We've got another canoe in Stevenson, the 6-man. We've got a paddle and potluck over there at the Stevenson boat ramp. We keep practicing. We'll go well into October until it starts to probably have a Halloween paddle. I don't know if it's gonna be right on Halloween. We'll see what the weather holds. Look for Val to get out his Captain America outfit, I think. Maybe a Sasquatch costume, who knows?
Should be an Aquaman then.
You gotta get Bigfoot on the outrigger.
Gotta get Bigfoot out there. And like I said, with the clubhouse, I think we'll sort of evolve a little in the winter and see what happens. There are some people who are just excited to have a place to work out in town, and we're not exactly sure what that's gonna look like. We do have, weights and fitness machines and rowing machines and so forth, stationary bikes. We may have some classes, not sure yet. We're kind of optimistic about that and excited about the possibilities. And we're gonna, at some point, we'll be part of a community night at Thunder Island Brewing, I believe. Don't have a date yet, but we know that's probably gonna happen. And that's, I go back to the 3 words, canoes, community, culture. We really want to be invested here. We want to be good partners, good stewards of the environment where we are, where we're, playing and living and learning. And for some of it, it's really almost dare I say, almost a spiritual experience being in the middle of the Columbia, especially with that wind and the light on those hills. And it's pretty amazing. I feel really lucky to be a part of it, and we're glad that you enable that in a large part. So we hope we can continue to work together for a long time.
I know I've enjoyed being, I know I'm not a member of the canoe club, but I enjoy being kind of the peripheral part of it. Watching you guys surf behind the stern wheeler is super fun. I've had a chance to ride on the 6-man OC, and that was super cool. So just as a community member and getting to be involved a little bit has been fun. Also organizing the highway cleanup, so I appreciate that you guys kind of stepped in and took that over, because I initially adopted it on my own. Without an organization, and then you guys stepped up and said, yeah, we wanna help you adopt it, so that's super cool.
Happy to help.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
I'd like to cheer you guys as volunteers. I know that that's something we see online a lot, is the Cascade Locks is lots, a lot of it's volunteerism, the Lions group that went away. There's always a lot of talk about the fact that the community doesn't have a place to gather now that we've lost our school. And how do we bring our children to a different place to spend time together, and how do we get community members together? And Gorge Canuka continues to increase that, make it better. I feel like sometimes we take advantage of you because we go, all right, there's a project. Maybe Gorge Canuka can flip birds. Maybe they can help us clean up the roads. Maybe they can pick up garbage. It feels like any sort of community event we put together, if we need hands, we always think, what about Gorge Canuka Club? And they always say yes. So I, again, am sort of a peripheral person that spends the time on the outside edge and far away from the water, but I enjoy spending time with you guys and watching you be out there in the community. It's, I think it's exactly what people need and want around here, and also is representative of what Cascade Locks has always been, which is community oriented. So we appreciate you as a partner.
Mark Johnson, legislative update.
And the video of our presenters are one to take off. Now's an excellent opportunity. Mark Johnson is very entertaining.
Why isn't that a empty room?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, with friends like that. Good evening. Well, I gave them the clip notes earlier. I'd like to report on a couple of key projects that we're working on. I'll start with the what I call the bridge project, which is, of course, it's related to the effort we've had underway for the last year plus, which is our seismic strengthening and analysis on the Bridge of the Gods. Made some really good progress in the last 2 weeks. Just as a recap on that, again, just for everybody's awareness, it's a total $12 million project. We're asking Oregon for $6 million, Washington for $6 million. That will fund, it's about a 2-year project. Once we would get started on that with some heavy analysis and seismic analysis, work that's never been done on this 1926 bridge. So there's that. There's also then some, about $6 million of that can go into some actual physical improvements to the bridge. New bearings that could sit on top of the concrete piers that right now the bridge is completely rigidly connected, that the bridge can't move in a seismic event. So there's some of that. There's some gusset plate work. There's some of the cross bracing that could be improved as well. And at the end of that project as well, we would have some much more refined cost estimates and analysis on what the rest is going to take to improve the structural nature of the bridge, quality of the bridge, so that we can reach the finish line, which would be that wonderful bike ped project. And by the way, could you imagine some of the events that could be staged in here if we had a safe way to get across the Columbia River? You hear some of these things talked here. What about some kind of a bi-state event? But that's down the road. Good progress the last 2 weeks. Last week, the Washington Joint Transportation Committee was in the Gorge for interstate bridge tours. They started in Astoria, worked their way clear down to the Dalles, and on last Wednesday, they were in Hood River for a presentation where we presented to them on our project, the Hood River Bridge Replacement Project. Made a presentation there too with where they are and their project to get going on their bridge. Very well received. This is a good group. I mean, they had a full-size tour bus full of legislators and staff and committee personnel. I would guess there was probably 35 reps and senators, so that's a good turnout. So I presented along with David McCurry, our bridge engineer, and we also had Mark Larrabee from the Pacific Crest Trail Association talking about their just earnest desire to have this bridge become safer for their hikers. I think their through hiker count this last year is up to 8,000.
And that's just the through hikers. That doesn't include people that are doing a part of the PCT, but it continues to grow. So the problem that we have of unsafe passage is only growing with each year.
Or the looking loose, which we get those every day too.
Exactly, yeah.
I really drove across and saw somebody flying a drone on the bridge while they were walking, I was like.
Ooh. There must be some ordinance that,
Flying near a bridge, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
more than one ordinance being violated there, I'm assuming. And then Kevin Waters, our state rep from over in the Stevenson area, Skamania County, also then kind of gave the hook, or he was the closer, if you will, talking to his colleagues about what they need to do in their short session to help support us. So that was very well received. On their way back to Vancouver then, the bus pulled in here, just right next to Bridgeside in the parking area there. Everybody got out. We had a chance to have them actually physically look at the bridge in a way they hadn't before up close. It was very well received. And most of the folks actually walked out onto the span to the Washington, entering Washington sign, turned around and came back. That was really illuminating for a lot of them. Some of those folks were grabbing onto that guardrail for life, if you can imagine.
Basically looking through those screens.
You've been up there and yeah, you get vertigo. That's not the place to be, but yeah, anyway.
Photography of that.
I do, I got some pictures I can shoot, yeah, exactly, showing, and then, actually Mark Larrabee led it, and then Kevin Waters as well, but apparently when they got up, it was Wednesday was kind of one of those really transitional, really windy days, but while they were up there was a rainbow. So he got a picture of Washington folks, a little rainbow in the back, so it's pretty cool. So that went well, made some great connections again with people. I think it's gonna serve us well as Washington gets in to start their short session right after the first of the year. Then the day after that, last Thursday, I went down to Salem for a day full of meetings because the Oregon legislature was in session for their September legislative days. So had some great meetings with the Senate President, Rob Wagner, who I think I mentioned earlier, came out here for PCT days this summer, and we had some great connections and conversations with him too. He and his son, he has a son, and they're doing the Oregon sections of the PCT, so they would be totally into that, supports the trail and so forth. Met with a committee vice chair, some of the other committee staff and so forth, to get our plan in place for the February session. So, and I had a really good phone conversation today with Susan McLean, who is the chair. She's one of the chairs, but she kind of runs the committee of the transportation committee down there. A likely pathway at this point is to have our requests be a part of a committee bill. The legislative playing field in the February session, because it's only 35 days, is really restricted. Each member only gets 2 bills that they can introduce. During a regular session, there's unlimited amounts of legislation, but in February, there's only 2. There's like 3 committee bills. Chair McLean is willing to get our request into a committee bill. She'll have an omnibus bill. It'll be kind of a cleanup bill from the last session. They've got some other policy bills they need to do some changes on. She's committed to try to get our measure, our ask of $6 million into a committee bill. That helps a lot. It just gives our project credibility. It kind of takes any kind of political maneuverings or whatever out of it. It's not so-and-so's bill or whatever. If you don't like so-and-so, we shouldn't approve this bill. So that's the pathway we're on right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass these out to you. First of all, Chair McLean wrote us. I asked her for this letter that I can share with the Washington legislature, but it just shows her commitment to do everything possible to help us in the February session get our bill passed through the committee process. This is the bill that we used in the last session, and what we're going to do with this simply is that problem. We have a bill in a session, the session gavels out, it's over. Any bills that don't pass or make it to the finish line are dead. So I gave you one of these guys. Anyway, you guys are something not new. So what we're going to do is just develop another legislative concept. It won't have a Senate bill number or a House bill number, but the language will stay the same in there essentially. I'll probably update the whereases a little bit, but that's what will be inserted into a committee bill. just so you can understand that process and so forth. So that's where we're at. I'm supposed to get back in touch with Chair McLean in about a week to 10 days, and she'll know more about exactly what the playing field looks like in the committee for February session. So that's where we're at. I feel good about that. There's a lot of support. I'm not aware of anybody who doesn't support our project. So it's just getting through the process. And the other thing about it too, is part of the Hood River presentation was that, you know, Oregon did commit, I think, $25 million to their bridge efforts in the last session. It's on paper. You still have to sell lottery bonds, which only happen once a year. Lottery bonds that were approved, the projects are approved in the 2023 session. Those bonds won't be sold until sometime in the spring of 2024. All that to say that if we're successful in February, we could be receiving our monies about the same time as we would have anyway, if we would have been successful in the last session. And that's part of what Hood River's anxious about, is they have a timeline like this and how many dollars they need to keep the progress going. And there's a bit of a delta in here, and they're saying, can't you do something to get us the check sooner? So that's what their ask was. So that's that topic. So any questions on the bridge thing before I move into the next item?
Have you received any feedback from other senators from the Senator Bill 815?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was last session. So again, that whatever happened, those people that supported the bill then will completely support it again. That's not a problem. If we ended up needing to have a member drop a bill, Senator Bonham has volunteered to offer us one of his too. Representative Helfrich is in a different position now. If you heard, he was selected to be the Republican minority leader last week. He's been on that transportation committee. I don't believe he'll be serving there anymore because his role will change a little bit. His leadership responsibility is going to take more time, but the benefit for us is he'll also have a spot on the capital construction committee that automatically goes to those who are in leadership like that. So if there's any question about funding of projects, he'll be in a position to advocate for the bridge from a different venue than the transportation committee. So that's a positive as well. So. Okay, to move into the bike trail grant updates. I know at the last meeting you all approved moving forth with the contract to award the bid to Ptarmigan Trails, which was great. Appreciated that. And as you're aware, the bid amount exceeds the amount of the grant that we were awarded from Oregon Park and Rec. So what it looks like working with Chris Bernhardt, our guy who's the C2 engineering, who's helping with all of the logistics on the grant, the trail project management and the process with getting the trail complete. The original plan was to complete 3.31 miles of pro-built trail. With the dollars we have available, he's factored in that we can do 2.48 miles of trail. So that's kind of where the original grant was for 130. I think the bid came in at 170 and change or something like that. So that's the difference. What can also be done is to deviate the course slightly in there. Apparently there are some gravel roads that could be used that could take up part of the slack. We could use part of the BPA right of way. You know, that's how that cleared. How's that go through that corridor in there? Part of that could be used to stage part of the trail as well. So all that to say, it's still in flux in terms of what the final product's going to look like. What we're going to do with the contract is to put in contract that says, you know, both parties are going to work together collaboratively and both parties have to agree on the work plan. But Ptarmigan's more than happy to work with the port to try to get as much trail constructed as possible. The Forest Service says it's possible that they could provide some hand crews at a certain point where if the pros could get in there with the equipment and do some of the heavier work of getting the trail, you know, shaped and formed and so forth like they do, we could potentially bring in some Forest Service hand crews to do some fine tuning. That's one option that could help lengthen the amount of trail that could be done. Yeah, Canoe Club, I hear these guys are great with shovels and rakes and stuff. Northwest Trail Alliance as well is another potential. Obviously, they've been really involved with Easy Climb. They do a great job there. They also are building 3 miles of volunteer trail. I think you're aware of that too, further east of where this is. And they really have their hands full. The terrain, I think, turned out to be a little bit more challenging than perhaps they thought. You know, once you get back up in the woods here, it's not dirt. As you well know, it's these basalt cobbles. It's a challenge. And frankly, that's one of the things that makes this, waterfalls marathon challenging as well, because there's very few places where you're running on just smooth terrain.
It's still perfect here to the fault line.
Yeah, it's a challenge. So all that to say, the good thing about this is that Ptarmigan doesn't want to get started until early in 24. By that time, it's possible we could find some other supplemental monies as well. Travel Oregon may have some additional funds that could be directed here to try to fill in that delta that we're short on the funding. As well as, like I said, working with some of our other partners, try to see just how much more could be completed. So we'll stay tuned on that. In the meantime, we'll have to get this contract put together. We've got some language that we can work with to get it in the contract, just to show flexibility on what the ultimate destination is going to be. But it does open up the fact that we may want to start thinking about phase 2 or phase 2s and 3s on this. This is phase 1. There's at least initially 3 phases of this trail system. The Oregon Park grant cycle will open up again late next year. We haven't talked specifically about being ready to go out. The next phases will be more money. Phase 2 involves a bridge over Dry Creek, which would be prefab somewhere and probably brought in and helicoptered in and set in there. So just so you know, it's a little more involved than just simply dirt work and trail work. The other thing, potentially, if you talk about federal money, flat grants, federal lands access plans, grants could be a resource. You know, federal money comes with a few more strings attached than state funding, but either way, there are other options out there. But again, as you hear about the huge interest in recreation here, when this system's complete, this is really going to be another huge draw. I mean, I think you guys are aware of how popular Coast Canyon is in the Hood River Valley and so forth. This system will be similar, but you're 30 minutes closer to Portland. So just to say, it's going to be a huge draw. And that's partly why we've been so proactive in trying to develop parking ahead of time, because when they show up, we want to be ready to have that space.
So the delta is 40K, which we.
Yeah, the grant amount and what the bid was for, correct? Mm-hmm.
To your point, like, where are we gonna find that, like, US Forest Service, I'm sure they have grants, I'm sure that Travel Oregon probably has grants. If there's only 40K, maybe we can find a benefactor that wants it named after them, they give us.
Benefactor would be wonderful, yeah. Or a volunteer nonprofit, you know, too, fundraisers.
I'm not a volunteer or nonprofit. Well, I'm a volunteer.
Nonprofit fundraisers, could we make this a beneficiary of something happening too? That's another possibility. Throw it out there. Could we raise money for this trail project over the course of this next, 4 months, 5 months?
6 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Any rich mountain bikers out there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. The last thing I'll close with, regarding congressional staffing, one of the things that the constants is that congressional staff is constantly changing. The people that work for our senators and our congressional folks, you know, these are not career positions, so it's kind of like a revolving door. So Dan Marr, the guy that's been working with Jeff Merkley, our US Senator, for a number of years, is moving on November 1st. He really wants to try to help give us as much guidance as possible before he goes. So Jeremiah and I are going to talk with him on Thursday about, and just brainstorm about what possibly Port projects could qualify for some sort of an earmark or congressionally directed spending. Brad, you're aware how that process works. Every spring, they take applications for a variety of projects that, these are small dollar things. But anyway, Dan really wants to try to help Cascade Locks get a project of some sort. So we'll just start brainstorming a little bit and see what we can get in place before he takes off on November 1st. And we're going to have to train somebody brand new who doesn't know Cascade Locks. And the great thing about Dan is he lives in the Gorge, he lives in Hood River. The next person more than likely is going to be back living in the Portland area again, so it just, they don't feel as much connected to the area as he does, but anyway, that's just part of what it goes through, you know, we had to do that with the Blue Matters office last year, and the white staff is different this year, so you just have to constantly stay tuned in and see who's on first, but the more we can keep them appraised of what we're doing and how they could support, then the better chances that we can actually get something, so.
What are ways that we, I guess, train them, or at least like have an experience or learn more about it? Is there just presentations, we invite them out here, just meet with them?
Yeah, it's casual, it's coffee, it's lunch, it's stuff like that, you know. They participate in stuff like, they show up at McCad meetings and they're at other, you know, Gorge area, you know, roundtables. They'd be happy to show up at a commission meeting at some point. They may not have a ton to share with you. They'd kind of just be here to be a sponge and soak up stuff, you know, so. Anyway, that's why we participate in groups like PNWA. You know, it's an advocacy group that has a real, you know, laid out legislative agenda. That's why we submit a project list to PNWA for our priorities and stuff as well. So that's on paper, so our other, you know, elected officials can see what the Port or Cascade Lock's priorities are and stuff, so. Okay. Now that we cleared the room out, we can.
Mark, you're welcome to stay, or you can go if you want.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay,
I gotta keep check on these.
Commissioner comments. Everybody's been through training the last couple of weeks. That's fantastic. Speaks highly of all of us. Everybody's getting up to speed on what's going on. So this will just start with Pamela.
Yeah, I enjoyed the SBAO ethics training that I attended with Carrie and Albert and Salem. It was good conversation, and George Dumble, yeah, he was very animated and kept your attention. Good questions from the audience. He also provided good examples just of how things are done. So, and I really appreciated that. I won't go into details because we've all been trained. But I did go to the Oregon Infrastructure Summit, which I thought was fascinating and wonderful on so many levels. I'll just, I made a few notes that I'll call out. The first side meeting was about disaster readiness. And coming from Texas, I wasn't familiar with Cascadia. And the, yes, yeah, that it's very close. I didn't realize that it could be now. I mean, they have signs to back up when they expect things. So it was interesting to hear how much water we need. I don't know if anybody else knows this, but 2 gallons a day, and a total emergency would be 83 days. I'm not sure how I came up with that calculation, but just things that, and I'll share my whole write-up with you guys. So I won't go into everything. I thought it was interesting that they had county level planning, resilience, hub grants just for Cascadia, and of course centers and networks and planning for climate change. I thought it was interesting that Port of was there, and it's a dry port. I don't know if you guys know that, but it is very small. And she mentioned that doesn't really make sense for a port to prepare at that level. And the reason why she said that is because there's really no funding for it. FEMA only responds when it happens. So in order to organize money, it's really difficult to plan for those types of things with a small port. But that was interesting. The next one was ports as economic engines. That was fascinating. It was basically a study that was done with Implan. I don't know if you've ever used that, but it's a great tool. They did a good job. I thought it was interesting that Oregon is highly trade dependent, I don't know if you guys do that. Another thing is West Coast ports are not categorized correctly, so to speak, because it includes fish, which is actually USDA. So the East Coast ports get most of the federal funding. I thought that was interesting. They claim that funding needs, top priorities are capital improvements, maintenance, and administration. I also learned that ports have unrestricted debt. Let me say that again. No, they don't have any debt restrictions. So, I thought that was very interesting. And port concerns by this, report said 60% of river ports are concerned about infrastructure and treaty expiration. If that wasn't on your radar, we may want to look into that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Columbia River Treaty is up for, next year.
Yeah.
And the Columbia River buyout is, you know, a big deal, when we were at the Oregon Ports Association, this week. That was a big discussion because the Washington buyout, biological opinion, isn't very favorable for ports, because, and the Columbia River Treaty, one of the big issues that if Canada decides to increase water flow, through the treaty dams, if they start letting more water through, it's gonna make a big difference on how much dredging is gonna be necessary. So it's gonna have a huge impact on harbor maintenance, Strutland, and all, just trickle down all the way, yeah, it actually trickle down, so.
Look at you guys, Columbia River Treaty, dredging, this is awesome. Thank you guys.
So yeah, a lot of big discussion, of course. And
That's,
I want more money.
What
Yeah,
the gravity of the situation?
Pardon? Yeah, the gravity of the situation, exactly. So, but you know, even a small amount of increase of the flow of the Columbia River is going to have a huge impact of how much sediments will collect and how much dredging will need to be done and that sort of thing, so.
Whether we need tugboats to keep the I-5 bridge up.
Right, and then you have the big discussion about people who want to eliminate the Snake River dams and the amount of impact that will have on trade from the Midwest, because grain from the Midwest and the number of trucks it takes to replace a single barge, we don't have the infrastructure necessary to do that.
I've actually had a conversation with somebody I work with about
It's
this.
quite interesting, yes. We talked to some people from Idaho and they're very passionate about that discussion, so.
Yeah,
So always fun stuff.
to expand on that,
Yes.
those are top items, but they were also concerned about Cascadia earthquake, new regulations that are coming down the pike, changes to federal lock and dam. I have to I'm not sure about that, I'll have to go back and read about it. A cybersecurity event, ocean acidification, sea level rise, pandemic, and terrorism, those are keys. And then the next one I went to is sunshine and sustainability, and they were talking a lot about water infrastructure and energy. I think it probably has more to do with the city, but I learned so much, and if we could pass on any information to the city, I would look at Pendleton as a case study. They have worked the grant system to make this energy it's amazing, the things that they've done. Some things that I'm familiar with is aquifer storage recovery and I mean, I could go on and on about that. It's very interesting. And then the last item was a handful of, they mentioned a handful of counties have energy plans, and Hood River was mentioned. We're one of them, I mean, just a small amount in Oregon, so that was kind of neat. They also, I guess, a key term that everybody throws around lately is EJ, which is yeah, and it for, you know, underrepresented communities and stuff, so that was a big key term. And also Justice 40 initiative was brought up, which I learned a little bit about. I had to go read a little bit about this, bring resources to communities most impacted by climate change, pollution, and environmental hazards. And that pretty much says that, but I have a lot more that I'll send to you all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Do you want to touch on your climate experience at all?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to touch on your climate experience at all? You said you were gonna take.
Oh, yes, yes, now that Rob has gone, I will just touch on the high, first thing, when meeting Mark is he knew everything about the fabulous totem. Sitting out there, did you see the totem? He knew who built it, he was Sue, he isn't of the, Cowlitz or, he just knew everything about it, so immediately plugged me in. I was very grateful for that. He emphasized continued learning. He also mentioned persistence, and he gave us an example of the controversy with the city and public versus the methanol plant that he wanted. And with sticking with the plan, the strategic plan, he is still holding on to that project for personnel change. So I thought that was very interesting that their strategic plan held so tight that they're willing to, if it's not accepted by whoever is the leadership at the time, they feel strongly enough to keep it in the plan. I thought that was great. He also talked to us about alcohol in the park and gave some good tips on that. He emphasized transparency and trust with the team, meeting us and the public, which I appreciated. He also, we got to witness leadership validation by having wonderful people sit at the meeting, and it was just, a well-oiled machine is what I told Jeremiah. It was great. He also said that he does not cut corners, and he will pay even extra for quality to make sure that everything is done as it's supposed to be done. And I think that includes planning and project management, everything down to, execution is quality. And I think that really stood out in my mind, because that's true. And then he also mentioned that relationships are everything. He has a commissioner that has no body shop that, people come in and talk, like a little coffee shop, which I thought that was interesting, so, learn information that way. And then also, McManamons wouldn't be without a maintenance person being a neighbor to leadership. I don't know what his name is for McManamons, but that's how McManamons came, was relationship. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
You have to add to the Port of Coloma tour I did last week with Executive Director Mark Wilson. He's been at the port for 41 years. This is a guy who loves his job. He's, due to his experience, he has a vision for the port. He shared a lot of values in how he appreciates culture, and he really did a great job incubating and continuing culture on his whole staff. And with the commissioner, they have 3 commissioners, they actually covered a lot of ground over there. We went and toured the properties. They have a rail yard, they can handle like 1,000 rail cars. They have 4 terminals that can handle up to 1,000-foot long freight barges. And this is all stuff that's coming in from Astoria before it hits Port of Vancouver. So they're kind of the first hit there on the Oregon side, the Washington side. And then I think bringing in McManamons, his relationship with the McManaman brothers kind of helped establish a place there on the waterfront. It's a beautiful area. You look across and you can see a tree line, and they have beaches and they have a pavilion for music events. So I think bringing in McManamons really brought in the recreational side to that port, because a lot of it, when you do drive around on the other side of the tracks, it's mainly industrial. They have big industries there. They hire about 1,600 employees overall at all the different places. One of the values he really emphasized on is don't sell land, continue to grow. Guarantees your future economic growth, and especially when you're on the river and you're part of the import and export. They're one of the major exporters for soy, corn, and wheat. So, and then they import a lot of cars coming in on the Washington side. And then they have tons of opportunity over on the other side of the tracks, the other side of the freeway, in the city of, Kalama, where they have great sports fields, they really prize pickleball, tennis, and baseball out there. They have over 100 security cameras on their campus, so they have a good lockdown, with that and contract with security. Yeah, so I think, he did touch a little bit on the methane, proposal out there. He got shot down, I believe, at the federal level with some of the environmental departments. But he does have a little bit of vision of how you recapture methane, maybe as a eco energy source out there, so they're kind of exploring that. Yeah, and then, outside of that, they just purchased a new property just south of the port. I believe it's an old grain or a chemical production site that they're gonna start developing on. One of the big news items they have is the Portland or the Mountain Timber Market. It's just south of McMillan's. It's a 4-story or 5-story building. And it's kind of built to be kind of an indoor space arcade during the winter months, rainy season months. They'll have vendors, restaurants, maybe co-working space upstairs. Inside on the second level, it's all open from the bottom all the way to the top, so it's like an atrium. But on the second level, they have, I believe it's one of the largest totem poles I've ever seen. But it's laid out there, it's really makes a big impression there. And also the history of the land out here, you know, recognizing that. And they also have a totem pole outside at the pavilion as well, so, and I believe they had some blessings from, some of the outrigger canoe community. I wanna say there's some Hawaiian history, in the town. I'm not too familiar with it yet, but I need to catch a fire, but a lot of back in the 1800s, when they had a lot of the workers coming in from the railroads, they had some gold mining in town. There was a lot of human migration and laborers that came through, so there's some early history to look at between, 1820s and 1840s, if you look back, so. Outside of that, there's a great trip to Port Kalama, and then, let's see. I'm already finished with SDAO training, so feel pretty well versed, and also thank you to the Port of Cascade staff for the big phone book binder I still need to read through as well, so a lot of great information there. I'm just very grateful to learn like all this new stuff and how to better serve the community. One thing I will say, in our community, we have the nonprofit Cascade Locks Fish Food Bank, which is a partner of Hood River Fish Food Bank. They receive primarily most of their food donations from Oregon Food Bank, but this year they've really cut back, so they're very short on canned goods and other items. So I would highly suggest anyone in the community, if they have anything to give, to reach out and see how they can help. So excellent.
All right, I guess we're all gone now, but I want to say thank you to the presenters from Gorge Waterfalls, from Bridge of the Gods Run, Columbia Gorge Racing Association, PCT Days, even though it's on email, hopefully we'll get to get them out here. Gorge Country Club, and thank you, Mark Johnson, for the legal update, appreciate it. As Pam mentioned, we attended the SDAO in Salem. It was super interesting, super like. There was a lot of great information that was passed along there. There was a lot of questions that could have been emails, but other than that, so thanks to the entire staff that helped out with getting that all organized. Thank you very much. I would love to figure out how we can come up with those extra funds for that trail, whether that is grants, whether that is getting a benefactor. I wasn't being silly. I was being quite serious. It's 40K, it's not an absurd amount of money, especially for people that have it. So it would be interesting to see if if we can think outside of the box and how to get those funds, so we don't have to worry about any sort of other ways to fund that. So yeah, whether that's grants from the Forest Service and however we need to do that, let's think outside the box and make it happen.
I think we charge for the camping sites out on the island where Jason wants to have people come and stay in town in tents, then we could be a good way to raise funds, charge For a campsite out on, Thunder Island.
Maybe 1,000 campsites,
Yeah.
but 4,000 campsites, but. But in all seriousness, I think there is ways that we can find those monies, and I think that it would go a long way, because I've said it before, I think that this town, like, if you love water sports as we were today, if you love trails, if you love hiking, like, this is where you wanna be. So, anything we can do to continue growing our trail community, I think it'll be incredibly helpful and important to us, this community. Speaking of community, I know that we all received an email about the city of Cascade and, the port joint session topics. I have some opinions on that. Do I bring them up here? Okay, cool. First of all, I think they're all the topics that came up were incredibly important topics for our community, just in general. As someone who lives here, I think they're all incredibly important to our community. However, it feels like there were a couple that aren't necessarily within our jurisdiction, probably more city jurisdiction. So I think that it would be best for us to focus that joint meeting on the things that we can actually tackle together. One of the things was the port summer recap. I don't necessarily think that needs to be a joint discussion topic. That could probably just be a presentation that we give to city council in some sort of capacity. I don't think that we need to have both of these entities or we need to talk about the recap. I feel that focusing on the business development, the electric and the joint grant and event opportunities are likely the key topics in my personal opinion. Say those again. Business development, electric, and the joint grant and event opportunities. Those 4 topics. And specifically around business development, I think that I would like us to focus specifically around zoning, planning and ordinance enforcement in regard to downtown and any sort of business development and real estate, since that specifically overlaps largely with our mission and what we specifically own and can partner together with the city on. So those are my personal opinions as far as that joint meeting is concerned. And happy to see if you guys have any things you'd like to add in addition to those items.
Just as a quick recap, they had homelessness on there, public safety, fire, EMS, law enforcement, recreation facilities, IGA and electrical agreements, integration of port and city tourism events, real estate, business development, cost sharing, joint grant opportunities, and port summer. I totally aligned with seeing the same overlap, and I think we worked through that a little bit more than they did. I have to watch that meeting, and they kind of went through it fairly quickly. We spent a little bit more time going, yeah, maybe that's what we don't need to do, maybe that's what we do. And I think that if me and Jordan can come together with both these lists and say, well, you guys said that, but we didn't, but we both said this, then I think that's what creates our agenda.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have this many people in a room, we need to be super tight with what we're gonna be talking about. And especially if we're gonna be coming out with next steps, we don't wanna just get in a room.
And that was my suggestion as well, is that, yeah, let's focus on the things that actually we can do something about, no point just getting together and shaking hands and talking.
Exactly.
And, we really need to be talking about next steps in order to the actual things that we can do. Working together and what each of our roles in it. I mean, there's certain things the board can do, better than what the city can do, but, you do have some shared interests as far as infrastructure and the electrical upgrades and that sort of thing, and what that looks like, and the downtown core development, definitely some big things about, the whole, do a lot for the city.
So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, those 4 areas are the areas I think are key topics for us.
And I think I would concur with that.
Yeah.
I would like to include with energy, water. I know the city, it's all of the city, but obviously the port is affected by it. So infrastructure meaning.
Especially when the city wants us to pull out our checkbook.
Yeah, I think it can
So we
be,
are both impacted by it.
I think they can be meshed together, as infrastructure for the city, energy, water. Infrastructure,
Right,
you
absolutely.
think?
Yeah.
Okay.
There, anything good?
As far as that is concerned, no, I don't. In addition to just thanking everyone that served the presentations earlier, I I personally am looking forward to next year. I think just everything that we saw this year was so exciting, and to see us be able to potentially build on it, I think is gonna be great for them, for us, for community, and I'm really pumped about that, so. Thanks again to everyone that presented.
Oh, I thought you were next. For going.
It's good. You guys all do it, no, follow up and just say, yeah, what they said. I'll pull a Dean, Butler. Sorry.
I will echo what Albert said with just thanking all the presenters. I thought it was really good to have those presentations. We already talked about highway cleanup, but if you are interested in volunteering, we definitely need more volunteers for Sunday. ODOT is involved, they provide the vests and the garbage bags and all of that stuff, so. Oh yeah, I went to SDO training, with everybody. I don't really have anything more to add to what everybody else said. Oh, one thing I wanted to, sorry, I'm going out of order, so I'm kind of all over the place here, but one thing I wanted to, talk about was possibly swapping the agenda items of our talking before your general manager report, because a lot of things that I end up wanting to talk about usually end up on your report anyway.
Same though, that's the reason I go last. It also lets me set a tone a little bit for time. I kind of, if there's things on here I cry with, I'll just do it.
Crossing things off.
I do, I kind of read the room that you guys are done, so that's the reason I go last is sometimes every.
And that's the reason I go last too.
But I'll be glad to, you got to do it however you see fit.
I don't need to pontificate after you all said things I probably should have said.
Well, so I've got the PNWA conference next week, that I'll be attending, thinking, well, I'm only able to attend 1.5 of the 3 days. Rob, are you going to take over for me
I'm
after?
gonna talk to Jeremiah, see if my schedule looks like, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be cool, since I think
That's,
the color
which
is
day,
already
which
reserved.
day are you
We'll
not
make
there?
sure to change the sheets.
Which days, are you not there?
The night of the, I think it's only 2 nights, so, right?
Well,
I mean, the day you're not there.
I'll be there the day of the 12th up until about 1 noon to 1, so.
Okay, so the 12th, I'll take that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it would be all day the 13th too,
Oh,
right?
the 13th, so it'll.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So you would spend the night of the 12th there. So looking forward to that, wanted to talk more about the alcohol policy. I don't know what the next steps are there.
It's on there. We're good.
Huh?
It's on my thing, we can do it now if you'd like. So I'm looking for a little bit more feedback on the alcohol policy. I thought we've had a decent conversation. The resolution that Tommy put together basically just repealed the previous resolution and made us no longer a dry park. As we started going down through the conversation, then we started getting into the nitty gritty of stuff of, could we limit the size of the containers? Did we want to start limiting some specific areas like having it out on the island, which is notoriously somewhat dangerous? Did we want to limit it to having it in near or around the playground? What about events that we deem to be a dry event where alcohol is not invited? How do we handle those sort of things? I have a fairly good grasp on it, but also sort of wanted to get some more feedback from you guys. I think we can do a roundtable now if we wanted to. I would also be willing to take your comments over email. There's not a huge push on my side to roll it a bit. It gets very cold and very wet and nobody's in the park. And it also takes a few steps to roll this resolution out. So I want to make sure we get it right. I want to make sure we have enough time to discuss it, that the general public can weigh in on it and know that we gave this some really thorough thought, thinking through. But next steps really are for me to bring something that me and Tommy are proposing, which we did. And it just sort of spawned more conversation. So I wasn't sure if I was going back to rewrite around the size of the containers, which I don't know that we're going to be able to get away with. There was some discussion around kegs, right? And how specific and slippery and how long this ordinance becomes, that we also talked about that we currently don't have the means to enforce. And so I think some more roundtable discussion from you guys around things that you're still concerned about, that you want me and Tommy to reflect on when we bring the next version of it. Or also just email from you guys of, hey, these are the things I'm thinking about and things that I'd like you guys to do in the next resolution. Right now, as it's written, we're just no longer a dry park, and it's just as it is in any other public place in Cascade Locks. So you're welcome to have an alcoholic beverage in Cascade Locks, the same way you're welcome to have a drink at Overlook Park.
I'll just mention, I think we should include some language about glass containers.
I think we did have glass
As
containers.
Albert brought up last meeting, it's a safety issue for kids walking on the beach and, I think that's kind of a common thing you see at most.
Glass containers was included in that.
Yeah, and just the grocery stores, most people do the right thing and buy aluminum cans, it's easier to recycle, less break it, if you break it, so. That's the only thing I have with it, and, if you guys are okay with it, I think we should, maybe take it to email. Get some more community feedback, what would they suggest, I'm totally fine with just repealing what we had, in 2021. I didn't see problems around that time, so, I think we can align with what Hood River has as well, currently on their books, so.
Yeah, just making sure you're bringing your thoughts directly to me.
It's currently a resolution, not an ordinance.
It will be a resolution to pass on. The ordinance will be, no, it will be an ordinance, excuse me, it will be an ordinance. It will be an ordinance.
Okay.
And it takes, we have to, you remember what it is, 10 days to advertise, two readings of the ordinance.
2 readings of the ordinance, and it has to be in public.
Right, it has to be public commentary on it,
Period.
so.
And it needs to be in a public space, like a publication.
Yeah, and
Yes,
some
and-
discretion also with our security staff about their discretion of what is public intoxication or not. You don't have to define it in the ordinance, but it's up to their discretion and judgment.
It's an Oregon state law already.
There's actually
Yeah.
some real limitations around what you can do around public intoxication laws. That was some of the stuff me and Tommy got into, because when we very first thought we were gonna go down this path, we thought we really were gonna go down in public intoxication, but if you start researching Oregon public intoxication laws, you're very limited on being able to tell people what they can do in public when they're intoxicated. Now, you can say creating disruption, you can do some different sort of language, but the actual public intoxication piece, and I think we see that in Portland, right? We see a certain amount of fit people are allowed to be in Portland in a certain state, and they've limited somewhat throughout the state what you can tell people they can and can't do while they're intoxicated. Creating a disturbance, that's different, and that's sort of what the language the city has. You're not allowed to create a public disturbance while intoxicated. But the city of Cascade Locks doesn't have any.
I figured it's set at the city level, just like the river, so.
And that's sort of what we were looking at, is repealing it and just going along with what the city currently had and letting the city set it. So.
I like the idea of emails, so we're not on the spot right now, and then you can report out so the public hears what we wanted and what you found.
Yeah, I think you just come directly with your thoughts. That'll give me enough information to work with Tommy. And if we have to come back with one more iteration of it, we'll definitely have it for the snow slide. So I don't know that there's a huge rush to get this for any certain reason, as much as there is a sense to get it right. So.
Thank you.
I guess I'm still up. One other event coming up that I just want to make sure is on public record and everybody knows about is the masquerade ball for the museum on the stern wheeler. It's going to be very exciting. Tickets are still for sale, so please get your tickets and support the museum. I'm looking forward to it. Got lots of fun donations. I think we got for the silent auction, because now I'm on the museum board. So I was able to get some free passes from Mount Hood, Meadows. I got a night from Skamania Lodge. We've got Aniche donated some wine, Bike the Gorge donated some bike rentals. Plus I'm sure Janice and Kathy have like tons of different stuff that they've got donated. Freeing donated a gift basket. Institute donated a Hawaiian shirt. And it's like, instead of like the lays and stuff, that's a Hawaiian shirt, it's like drones and stuff.
Rob,
Hawaiian shirt is 4 times.
What else did we get? Oh, I got a few paintings from the local artist, Bonnie White. So that's exciting. She's a wonderful watercolor artist. My coworker friend is a pretty well-known photographer in the area, Jesse Brackenberry, is gonna donate a print, like a pretty large one. They're currently displayed at Everybody's Brewing. Everybody's donated as well, so I've been busy like collecting
That's awesome.
tons of donations and stuff.
So the Mass Creek Ball, is that a dockside event or are you actually going out on the water?
Going out on the water, you have to be there at 5:30 to check in, boat leaves at 6 p.m.
And drinks and orders, or is there dinner there too?
That's a dinner, I think a light dinner they're saying, but I think it's gonna be like buffet style Italian. Vegan options available, gluten-free options available, so it's
Awesome.
gonna be a really fun night.
And you go through the museum?
It's, yeah, on the museum website, there's a link to buy tickets, so tickets are $75, but it includes the boat ride, it includes dinner, you know. And
Yeah,
it
sure.
goes
It's
to a
always
great
fun.
cause, to help support our museum, so that's awesome as well. There'll be a cash bar, so drinks are not included, but there'll be a bar available. Speaking of alcohol policies. And then I think the rest of the stuff I wanted to talk to you about is already on your general manager report, the Flex 6 stuff and then the water treatment stuff. So.
Fantastic. Well, kudos to everybody for, putting in your time and, being very passionate about learning, you know, so. Important thing we're doing here. So we went to the Oregon Public Ports Association, conference, kind of a short conference. It was a Friday night, or I mean, Thursday night and Friday. But great, a lot of times connections you make with, other ports talking about the things that they're doing, like you did with, your interview at, Port Kalama. But heck, we met with, the guys from Fort Astoria, they've been there forever, you know, the guys like, oh, since 1966, he's been on the board. And you're like, whoa, that's a long run,
Yeah.
you know, but, no, it's great, a lot of great discussion. We talked a little bit about, properties and leasing of properties and, you know, not giving up for properties and how do you go about, you know, certain types of development, how do you do that and still maintain control of the property? Because especially in a place like us where we can't just push out our urban growth boundaries and get more property, we're hemmed in and, it can really control the direction of a community when you start selling off blocks of your property. And, can really change the direction of your community in a way you may not want it to go. So we're gonna be very careful moving forward about, the sale of properties, ways to work out leases and hopefully still have fingers in control of what happens, you know, not just a 99-year lease for, whoever takes it. But you know, a lot of great discussions about, development and, OR 777, a lot about the Columbia River buy-off and Columbia River Treaty and the potential impacts on ports and I'll say the PNWA meeting, you guys will learn a lot, probably be a lot about, Columbia River Treaty as that's coming up next year. But, these things are always eye-opening and a lot of it is just the connections that you make with other ports, the things you learn from what they're doing. But I think we got a bright future because everybody's getting ideas of things that we can do and things that we want to plug into. And I think that will have us doing great things. So with that, I'll pass it along to Mr. Jeremiah.
I had one go back because I forgot, that it happened since the last meeting, that I went to the Skamania County Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Luncheon a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago now. And it was pretty enlightening. I mean, the entire subject of the luncheon was childcare and or lack thereof in our local communities. And what we're doing to try to fill those gaps and some of the legislation that is being worked on the Washington side. They didn't really focus a whole lot on what's going on the Oregon side, being Skamania County, but just trying to get some legislation to pass to help parents with their childcare issues. So thought that was super interesting, all the work that's going into that. Because it is a huge problem out here. I mean, you know, we can't find employee, how it impacts, businesses because they don't have childcare for their kids, so they end up not getting a job, and so we have lots of employment opportunities to fill, and how low wages are impacting the childcare community, and you've got people who have a college degree that are running these childcare centers, but they are paid less than elementary education, so they end up just going into the school systems instead because they can't survive on the amount that they're making. So it's just kind of there's a slew of issues going on. What I heard was in Community County, there was like 500 some children in need of childcare and only 90 open spots at childcare facilities.
So Brittany sent that, she brought that number back.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So even though I'm not a parent, I thought it was extremely interesting because it is a problem that affects our entire community.
It's a huge problem in reality of where we're at,
Right.
for sure.
One thing I'll add to, next Thursday, this Community Economic Development Council is hosting a luncheon. It's $25 at this community lodge, 11:30 to 1. Washington Congresswoman Perez will be there in attendance, and a lot of the Washington side businesses involved with the Economic Council over here and nonprofits. So it's a good opportunity, great venue, good way to connect with our neighbor. So.
Is anyone interested in attending that?
What day was it? On the fifth.
On the fifth?
Yeah.
It's on the fifth.
Thursday. This coming Thursday.
Yes, Thursday. Reach out to the Port of Scovedia, Wanda, so.
We did purchase tickets for that. We have some tickets for people that are going. I believe I forwarded that out to commissioners. I didn't hear from anybody. Most Skamania County Chamber does a lot of events. This is one we particularly like to hit. We go to as many as we can because we're part of it. We pay to be a member, so we go as many as we can, but we don't always hit them all. This is one though that I think there'll be economists from both the Oregon side and the Washington side. I think it might be the same guys we had at our event,
That's next Thursday.
this Thursday. Yeah, I know, it's just gonna be good.
Yeah, in 2 days.
So if anybody, on this one, I did forward it out, I didn't hear back from anybody, but if you guys are interested, we're more than welcome to get you guys a ticket. I will be attending, Mark Johnson will be attending. If any of you would like to go, there's plenty of room for you, and it's a good one. But I know we can't get them all, and I certainly appreciate the ones you guys have here. So I'll talk about my report. I do want to thank you guys for all the effort you're putting into attending, especially the new elected officials of training. I'm really glad to get that out of the way, completed. I know that there's a certain amount that you've seen before. Our entire commission policy package is really built around that. I mean, almost verbatim, and with a lot of intention. And so for you guys to know that forward and backwards is great and something that can cross off the list. I don't say that it crosses off all SDO training. They do a summer session in which there's 4 or 5 sessions going at different at a time. And you have the opportunity to go and go to the ones that most apply to you. So the one that I found most interesting when I first started was interacting with your commission's council, right? So things are all related to the work that we do with Tommy. Also working directly with your city, special districts working with the city. So there's different ones you can go to that sort of will pique your interest. But I think we're probably done with the ethics training and the elected officials training. So all right. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. I know it was a lot of personal vacation time that you guys had to take. Jordan emailed me today from the city. He let me know that the street vendor permit for the coffee stand that we had down at the port has expired. You can only do 120 days within the city, and she has exceeded that. He's going to send a letter asking her to move. I mentioned to him that that was on our parking lot, not on the city street, and that we have historically had vendors within our park and had been allowed to oversee and sort of direct all the activities that happened within our park that had to do with selling goods, selling food, selling those types of things. I said, are you now on the 4th of July or some of these other things you're going to want me to? And he said, well, really, that's the way that it should be. So I sort of left that with him. I also said, and I said, what we don't want to be is out of compliance. I don't want to get emails like I got today that said, hey, the port's out of compliance. But also there seems to be a certain amount of us being out of compliance on certain things and not out of compliance on others, and they don't have a problem with it. So, right now, I think we're out of compliance on a lot of stuff, but it's stuff that we've been out of compliance on for a long, long, long time. I don't have a conditional use permit to use Marine Park as a park. I don't have a conditional use permit to use the marina as a marina. I think that there's probably, I don't have a conditional use permit to use the campground as a campground. So the things that they're going to grandfather us in on, or that they want us to get compliant on, we want to do it. So I've asked Jordan to come back with something that's all encompassing of how much do you want to be involved? How much of the stuff that I'm doing and historically have had the ability to do within this park, do you now want me to bring to the city to get your stamp of approval on? So that's something that me and Jordan start working on. He said he was going to make that a priority, but we certainly don't want to be out of compliance with this thing.
And I would say they need to go into their community development code, into public space, and make certain things that are grandfathered in essentially outright uses, because there's really only 3 things that we're allowed to do in that park, and most of the things we do are not in compliance. And the 120 days on this permit is not in the ordinance, but it is in the paperwork, basically. The little form that you fill out has the 120-day limit on it. I'm going, okay, is that 120 days, if it's not in the ordinance, was there a resolution?
September is when they introduced that new language.
Is there a resolution? Did they do a resolution for it?
Did they update
There's a
that with a
resolution,
resolution?
but
It's not, then
it's not actually in the ordinance.
Got that.
yeah, so,
Anyway, and so, yeah, I talked to Sean at the stand and I said, hey, listen, I'm gonna put in the good fight for, we really want to be in charge of having vendors down here and allowing people in the park and setting up the electrical and managing the calendar of it and all those sorts of things that we historically have done. But if the city says we're out of compliance, then, we're out of compliance.
so I just don't want to see the city bringing things up that all it does is shoots the community in the foot by restricting a lot of things and
I'll make just a small comment about that.
increases fees to your biggest partner and to do things that we customarily always done. But
Agreed, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, there are a lot of codes that are not enforced within the city, and I think it would behoove both of us to be in compliance, make compliance clear, and yeah, like you said, don't shoot your partner in the foot.
They're rewriting their codes too and are asking for feedback on what codes work and don't work. So we can have.
Well, there are empty
input on that
buildings
too.
hanging out here that they have not enforced. I mean, I would think that that's what you would go for first,
Right.
The priority of downtown revitalization it should be number 1 on the city's concern, but I do not see that happening currently with the administration. So, I think there's some bigger fish they can focus on, so,
This is a very small fish.
And that's what I was referring to when I said that's tribute to focus zoning, coding and ordinances.
So right now, we will work to be under compliance, and then as the city works towards zoning, we will be a local partner in the things that we would like to see that can help us be a better partner to them, which is something that almost every elected official that ran said they wanted to see, was a better partnership between the port and the city,
Yes.
so. We're working on a small project at the visitor center. There's been a pipe that runs up above underneath the overhang forever, and every year we wrap it, and if we don't wrap it soon enough, it cracks and it breaks and the water comes down, and so we're burying it underground. It's been on the list of things to do, but now that we're gonna have Extop moving in at some point in time that will be open during the winter, it was a project that we needed to get done. So we're doing it in-house. We'll see them tearing some ground over there. Parker was working on today, John was working on today, so they're making good headway. They should be done by the end of the week. I reached out to Ann Menbach before the meeting today. Last time I spoke to her, I said, hey, listen, I want to have you present to the commission every month, at least come in once a month and say, this is who I talked to, this is the feedback that I'm getting, these are people who are interested, this is the deal that fell apart, this is why I'm struggling. Boy, I'm nervous too, whatever the feedback is, we want it. I didn't hear back from her today, but I didn't give her a whole lot of time, so that was my fault. I will follow up with her tomorrow, we'll get an email out to you guys, but I do expect her to present to the commission every month. She was not on this agenda, so I'll have her on the next one.
It's not too many months.
Yeah, me as well. I don't want this. We were shopping that building. Were we shopping it the way a broker shops that building? I don't think so. That's why I think it was a smart decision for you guys to go out there and hire a broker, somebody who every day and who doesn't make money unless they get this thing rented. But it's still tough. It's still a big nut. It's still a large dollar figure every month, and most likely is going to require a large number of employees if they're going to rent out the whole space. It's going to be a special person that comes and finds it, and I do have faith and trust in Ann that she will find somebody. I appreciate that she's worked with courts before, and the work she's done with Port of Hood River. She's going to be able to really help any clients that we bring in understand what it's like to work with the port. Right, we're not just, yep, I'll be the mayor and we'll sign, right? It's gonna take some steps and some things we have to go through and some discussions on this side. So I think she's gonna do a good job at helping the client understand that. But I know with as quickly as she brought us, and the name just escapes me, the Cabo, as quickly as she brought us to Cabo, that she would have continued to bring us people if they were just lining up at her doorstep. Also, we shot that down as a commission, right? And so that probably detracted her from doing it a little bit, but that building's not an easy one to fill. It's not an easy one to fill. So I want to set the expectation that it could be months. It could be months. I hope it's not. I hope it's tomorrow. I hope tomorrow we're down there and there's somebody who's like, this is what I've always wanted.
I think it's something we have to consider, like, plan B of using that funding that we got for the electrical upgrades towards Flex 6 building, potentially to pay down our loan a little, because we don't have budget. We weren't planning on not having income coming in from Flex 6 in this budget.
Right. Me and Chuck are working on that as we speak. What would it look like for us to use some or all of that $2.4 million to pay down that building? And then refinance it. And see what rates are available to us. So we will have some of that information to you. It may come shortly after the power project presentation. I don't know that I want to do it at the same time. I want to get that power project its fair look without being like, yeah, maybe we can't afford this. Like, let's really understand the nuts and bolts of what that costs and what we get out of it before we tackle.
It's just important that we know both sides of the table before we actually make decisions on the power expansion itself.
Agreed.
100%. And I want to see the power project too.
Yes.
Especially if it means we can expand the power down Cramblett Way out to the north side of the park. Because, you know, it opens up so many more possibilities down there if we have utilities running down.
And maybe it's a $1.4 million power project and a $1 million pay down on Flex 6. There are
Maybe there's other grant opportunities further down the road for those type of projects too, if needed, you know.
Totally. Yeah, I just personally feel like there's a lot of cash out there, whether it's federally or state or any sort of entity, that it would be really great if we had a huge focus on those $3 instead of us trying to feel like we have to have the money in pocket before we spend it. There's a lot of money out there that people are trying to give to people.
Well, we have lots of good project ideas, we can just draw them up in grant writing, we need somebody dedicated to that.
Agreed.
There's some information about an email I just sent about grants too.
And I think a lot of that will come together with your guys' strategic business plan. When you guys put that strategic business plan together, that really sort of is a broad stroke painting. Okay, Jeremiah, this is the direction we want to go with the board. And then it sends me back to the drawing table to say, okay, this is what I need in order to execute on that for you. And just having spent time with each one of you individually and kind of generally understanding what's going to come out of that strategic business plan, I undoubtedly will be coming to you at some point in time and saying, I need somebody on staff that's committed to grant writing at least 75% of the time. I'm not asking for that now, but just on the conversations that we had, I mean, it's not falling on deaf ears. I just don't have it in this budget, and I also don't have a strategic business plan for you guys. But I hear you. The bridge inspection was completed this last week. We had our debrief this morning. It was really quick, that's really fast, it's a little earlier than they normally do it. They had a window and an opportunity, and they were able to pull it off. They do it every 2 years. It's paid for by ODOT. DEA does it. They've come out the last 6 years, two. And in the debrief, we don't really get any of the main details. We sort of get, we didn't really see anything of huge concern, but we'll see what happens when we start crunching numbers. Or we saw something. And what's always nice is when they go, we didn't see it. So they didn't see anything, right? Do we have pack rust on the bridge? Yes, we know we have pack rust on the bridge. They don't see that it's spread or increased in anything that they're viewing as concern. We have some cracks in the decking. We have a project that we started 5 years ago, Brad? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, welding on the deck twice a year. So we go out there and we weld all those cracks on the deck. It was, I think, around $40,000 each time we did that, so a total of 80 grand per year. We made a decision to skip it this year to see how that went. They were pleasantly surprised. They were like, "You guys really got ahead of this in the last 5 years. I think now going to an every other year is probably going to be fine." So we got ahead on that. They saw very few cracks in the decking of the bridge. It's fairly quiet when you cross it now. So that was good. With that being said, the last time we did this, they said the same things, and when the engineers crunched the number, that's when we found out repair that was necessary. So we're really not out of the woods till we're out of the woods, but it always does feel good for them to come back and say, we didn't see anything that just jumped at us. It was major. I was approached by a citizen who had pointed out that the street light that is in front of the intersection coming out of Cascade, out of the park, is out and very dark. And so I reached out to the city and said, "Hey, can we take a look at this?" And I followed up with him today. I said, "Hey, did we get anywhere with that street light that knows it's still out? And we're just replacing some." Jordan let me know that the street pole does not have power, that the power lines are underground right there, and that pole and those power lines are owned by the Port of Cascade Locks. So I will research that, dig into that, make sure that that is a pole that we own and our responsibility, and we will get that intersection lit up, because that's something that needs to be done. But it was not something that I was aware of, and was very surprised to hear that. So, but we'll get working on it. Once we get back the information, going back on the inspection, once we get back that inspection and the engineers have had a chance to debrief me and David McCurry, I will have David McCurry come and present to you guys exactly what was found and give them some feedback. We may even tie that into a workshop with the bridge, which I've been pushing for a little bit. Mark Johnson is pushing for that. We need to tackle the bridge at some point, and it'll probably line up pretty good when we get the final back on that. Covered joint state meetings. Both PA, I thought the Oregon floodplain information that we got there was very interesting. I have a lot of research to go back and do on that. The FEMA had made some decisions about the Oregon floodplain, and it didn't bode very well for most of Oregon. I don't know very much of anybody who's followed this. There's been a lot of pushback on it. It's stalled to a certain degree. It would have pretty much effects on all of the ports in Oregon and anybody that's near large bodies of water.
Insurance is going up. Yeah.
And some of what we can do with the land around it, so.
Biological opinion that was.
Correct.
Grease flows down to Columbia and.
NWA, next week, as you mentioned, I was reached out to by the executive director of the Gorge Commission. They're gonna be meeting down at the pavilion for their first meeting in quite a while. She invited me to come down and give some opening comments, welcome to Cascade Locks, on what the port's up to. So that's exciting. I haven't never been to one of those meetings, and I was happy to be invited to do that.
What's the date for that again?
It is 10th.
The 10th. Yeah.
I also traded some emails today with one of our tenants. I'm willing to jump into it as much as anybody wants to, or also willing for us to revisit it for a decision. What do you want to talk about? Let's talk about it. back in August, see my first email from
Maybe it's August.
Like August 15th, Jasper reached out and said, hey, wastewater treatment facility is smelling pretty strong. You got any feedback on that? I said, not a lot. I'm just now aware of it. I know that it probably doesn't smell great, but it's bad. And he's like, yeah, it's bad. I'm like, okay, so reach out to Jordan. Jordan said, yeah, the new system that we put in, it's gonna take the biological bugs a little time to take hold. We expect when the temperatures drop that it will get better. We expect when the biology actually does what it's supposed to do, that the smell will get better. And so that was the information that I passed back on to Jasper at that time. Also encouraged him to go directly to the city. They're gonna have more insight on the day-to-day on what's happening with that. So today I never made it down to that area of the port. I didn't even know it was smelling particularly bad. So he reached out to me today, said it was smelling particularly bad. He believes that it has, and doesn't believe it has, it's costing business. He hasn't had the ability to put on some events that they do down there. They do some tastings, they do some dinners, they have people out that I think you can just go in there and buy wholesale too. I don't know that for sure, but as well as Melanie and Malia, which is landmass wines there in that exact same facility. She sent a very similar email saying it's bad. They also asked if the port was willing to make any financial compensation to what they had lost by being able not to do business out of those buildings due to the smell. Generally, I don't know how we would approach that. I said I would bring them to you. I have very little control over what can be done at that wastewater facility. I can lean into the city pretty much the same amount that they can lean into the city. I would be hard pressed for me personally to take this to the council. I feel like I can take it to Jordan, and Jordan can take it to his council and see, what, but I don't know that I want to lean into it so hard that I go, hey, Jordan, you can come talk to your council about this. It might be an opportunity for, I definitely would go as an advocate with our tenants to talk about the impact that it's had to their business. I would leave it somewhat up to this commission to decide whether or not it's something that we can financially compensate them for. They are the two tenants that I've heard from. I have multiple tenants out there.
Because we really can't tell what financial impact it had, first of all, and it's not something we have control over. I mean,
I also don't know, I don't also know where to gauge it. I don't know when I go out there and say, it's smelly enough today that I owe you some money. And I'm not being sort of flippant about this. It's like, this is a bummer and I want to fix it and I don't know that I
I'm
can.
actually curious about the smells too myself. I live pretty close to the area over there. I personally haven't noticed anything, but I will take it upon this to drive down there and kind of see what it does. One thing I'm curious about is Jordan's email saying that we're at the mercy of our contractors. Can you let me know the name of those contractors?
Yeah, Jacobs
Yeah.
Engineering. Yeah, Jacobs Engineering does all of that. They don't have anybody in-house, so.
if you look into Jacobs Engineering, I've seen they've had some history in other cities. They've already had an E. coli spill that the city had to pay fines for 2020 and 2021, and they just recently had a spill at the new pump station by the boat ramp, which is on port property, but city annexed.
Right.
I would encourage to at least make those comments, just the track record of this contractor. It seems like they don't really take the community concerns as a priority, and it's a little difficult too, because we had a change in city administrator, so they might not be up to speed on what the history is with them, but it's good.
That's all that I have. If we want to discuss the Jasper thing more, I think now's probably the time for us to do it. I don't necessarily know that you guys have to commit to, yes, we'll financially, but I at least want you to be thinking about it. If I get some feedback throughout the week, it's tough.
It's definitely an issue near and dear to my heart, because I literally moved away and sold a house I only owned for 9 months because of the smell, so. I totally sympathize with them, but one of the things we do is, for due diligence as a home buyer anyway, is you're supposed to know your surroundings and what comes with that.
I would say we'll do everything within our power to get this rectified as quickly as possible. However, it's not something we have control over or are responsible for. It's unfortunate. But we, as a port crew, can't compensate them. First of all, how much do we compensate them for? And how much was the impact? And secondly, it's not something we have control over, other than doing everything we can within our power to work with the city to see that it is,
I would be curious to see if there's, any input from the Port of Hood River, because as a customer of Green, I've been down there and they're providing a water treatment plant in Hood River, and I've definitely smelled it while I've been at Green. So I'm wondering if there's been any other complaints registered from their perspective and how it was handled on the Hood River side, because it's a very similar situation. At least they have indoor dining where you could escape the smell, but like their patio is completely cleared out, and like nobody's at the park, because it was a pretty bad day. The wind was going a different direction, I guess, or whatever, but.
I wonder with the smell and the way to describe it, having particulates in the air, if any studies have been done, and if it is any kind of environmental hazard.
I think of the city of Camas, it's kind of like the warehouse or the place there, the plant there, do they compensate their community for the way the
Talking about the paper mill that
the
they're.
paper mill, smell sometimes? It's like, the whole town smells that way.
We were just, and it is in an industrial area. I know that some of their work they're doing is not something you would consider industrial, because they are working, doing wines and ciders. We were just at the Port of Kalama, the wastewater treatment facility is right in front of the McMinn as well. The McMinn's in the port building, but in that parking lot, right? So a lot of that stuff sort of does get stacked down there together. In the second email here, the million is by itself, or he had said something to the effect of a reduction in monthly rent until the plant had been finished and smelled and contained, plus a credit for the months that had been a problem. That would seem fair. So that was sort of his direction we wanted to go.
He said the whole year has been a problem though. But, I mean, how do we?
And at what level do I say, oh, yes, it smells bad enough today? Right,
How do we quantify it?
yes,
Yeah.
right?
I have two questions on that. You said, are they the only two tenants that have said anything?
If you have said anything to me, yes.
Because we have multiple tenants down there.
I asked my doctor's office if how things were going there, because they're right there in that group, at integrated, Green Integrated Health. And I just had an appointment last week, and I was like, how are things going? How are you feeling as a tenant? What are any concerns you have? And the only concern they brought up was spiders.
Spring bill.
So what I was,
Nothing about the smell.
what I was trying to
They are the most active
With the
areas
spiders.
people down there though, right? So like Jasper's there a lot, Blind Mass is there a lot, the other two folks are there somewhat, Drain's there kind of intermittent.
So I had two questions.
Yeah.
One, was there anyone else that has asked this? It sounds like it's been going on for months, so if it hasn't, and they're the only two, then it's zeroed down specifically to them, no one else seems to. be
Well, they're also
affected.
on the water.
And so the second element is, do they reach out to the city as well? Because to everyone's point here, we're not in charge.
Yeah, I didn't get clarification on if they had reached out to the city. I told them that was the direction that they should go. I told them that's what I would do last time they met it, so I kept sort of saying like the city did, but I don't know clearly whether or not they reached out to Jordan. Okay.
This water problem is part of the infrastructure.
Yes, and if anybody needs to compensate them, I would say it's the city, because it's the city who's creating the damage.
Exactly, I'm in agreement with Robert as well, it's just, we're not the direct cause of the situation. Sure, we can, advocate for you and try to help you with the city, but you really need to approach the city first, and raise the concern. And if there are damages, you need to direct them towards the city,
Right, and it sounds at least rectifiable. It's not something that's a constant thing that's been going on for years and years. In my situation, I wasn't gonna win. Like against the Thai plant and everything else.
You saw Jordan's response. Jordan said that I talked to Public Works, there are a few containers holding excess sludge. He did, because it said that they were reliant on. So I'm hoping this rectified itself.
All that excess sludge away.
It doesn't become an issue next
I
time.
can generally take your comments and feedback to Jasper and can also let him know that that's where the board stands on it. He may ask to be put on an agenda to discuss this item. Is that something we would be open to? Right. You guys for me.
I mean, it's not fun.
You know, lose them as a tenant. I mean, there's gotta be some future possibilities we can do to move them away from those locations, but.
I mean, the closest example I can think of is, you know, being a port neighbor to, you know, Bear Mountain with the sawdust. And they've taken active steps on their private property to do sawdust mitigation. They have new poles up there, the screens are going up pretty soon. But I've never seen anything at the port where they actually compensate neighbors, for a nuisance that's not directly caused by the port. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to come here and talk, that's great, it's obviously not falling on deaf ears, but we're also not. People aren't really responsible for any of the situations.
Great. That's all I've got.
And we have no executive session.
We got no executive session.
Okay, well, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn, if there's nothing further.
I second that motion. Oh wait, I motion to adjourn.
You make it.
I was waiting.
Somewhere here, we have a motion and a second, we have a motion, we have a second.
We have a second.
We have a second.
I was gonna let you guys say it, bounce it up.
Rob seconding?
Albert, second.
I second that.
Okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.